It is so good to see so many friends, so many families, and most of all, so many Toastmasters. Welcome. This is one of many sessions hosted by District 47 to assist our members during times of uncertainties and difficulties as we embrace the new norms COVID-19 has forced us to. So I want to thank you all for joining us. My name is Distinguished Toastmaster Andre Kelly, and I am your District Public Relations Manager. On the call today, before I introduce Distinguished Toastmaster David Carr, I want to introduce a man who is no stranger to leading in times of crisis. He's led our district during a time when clubs in the Bahamas and also in South Florida felt the effects of Hurricane Dorian. And we know many of our clubs in the Bahamas continue to push through that. He also led our district through the challenges we face globally now, the COVID-19 pandemic, and I think he's doing an exceptional job. I am pleased to introduce, to just say a few words, our district director, distinguished Toastmaster Leonardo Boros. Please, by virtual means, give him a round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you very much, distinguished Toastmaster Kelly. And I'm sorry I'm adorned with a mask. I am an essential worker and that I am a police officer. And I have the honor of serving and working this morning. And I'm actually working on the streets. But I saw it fitting to actually chime in for a few minutes to actually hear this wonderful session that distinguished Toastmaster Carr is about to share with each and every one of you. And I wanted to personally welcome you and thank you for taking time out of your schedules today to participate. And so I wish today that you enjoy yourselves, have a great time. I will be on as long as I could. Have a wonderful day. And in advance, happy Mother's Day to all of the mothers. Thank you, DTM Kelly.
Thank you so much, distinguished Toastmaster Leonardo. Ladies and gentlemen, as we prepare to receive from the wealth and the knowledge of our speaker today, I want you to repeat in your homes after me. Say, I will have fun. I will be open. And I will learn something new that I've never learned before. And that's important. It's important for you to be open because if you're not open, chances are you won't have fun during this session. And if you're not having fun and if you're not open, then it isn't Toastmasters. We're not going to learn anything new. So be open, let's have some fun, and together we will learn something new today. David Carr, DTM, is this year's District 47 webmaster and the founder of the WordPress for Toastmasters open source software project. His WordPress software extensions for Toastmasters were originally created for use by Club Awesome Toastmasters in Coral Springs and are now used by clubs around the world. Wow. Best known as a writer and editor, David joined Toastmasters in 2010 to sharpen his speaking skills. He is also the author of Social Collaboration for Dummies. David, I think I may need that book. And has been a main stage speaker at technology conferences internationally. David was formerly an editor at Information Week, Baseline Magazine, and Internet World Magazine, and has published articles in Forbes, CIO Magazine, and many other publications. He currently works as a freelance writer, editor, and digital consultant through Carr Communications, Inc. In 2017, David led Online Presenters Toastmasters to charter its first president. He's currently Vice President of Education at Club Awesome, and he is the best webmaster our district has ever seen. Please welcome David Carr, my friend and brother today. Thank you.
What? Hello? I'm sorry, I heard something saying call ended. Sorry, I'm just checking to make sure my audio is working. Okay, I think you're hearing me.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
All right. So, a couple of housekeeping items. This meeting is being recorded, and it's also being broadcast on Facebook Live, although being here is a better way to get your questions answered. Please mute yourself when you're not speaking. You can enter questions in the chat and Andre will relay them to me. We're here to talk about a subject that I could talk about all day. One of Andre's jobs is going to make sure that I don't. So if you enter your questions in the chat, he is authorized at any time to interrupt me and say, Dave, you're rambling. These people don't know what you're talking about. You slow down and explain that more slowly. So I'll do that. One of my problems is I've been working with WordPress so long that I think everything is easy, and it's not necessarily easy for everybody to understand. You've already heard a little bit about me. I encourage you to find your way over to my LinkedIn profile and connect with me, because one of the things I'm trying to do is build my network. But a pro tip, when you add a note to your invitation to connect, I'm much more likely to respond affirmatively to that. So why am I such a fanatic about WordPress? Well, one reason is that WordPress is used by a lot of big organizations. Now, it was created by bloggers for bloggers. And this goes back to the early 2000s. Blogging was actually a bigger phenomenon in some ways than it is now. It was before the rise of Facebook. And so social media was essentially a lot of people.
Why need the agenda? But it was just a conversation.
Going to,
I get you.
somebody is unmuted, and so we're going to use my magic mute all button. You can unmute yourself by clicking the control in the lower right-hand corner of your screen if you need to speak up. So software created by bloggers for bloggers. It's used on a lot of amateur websites, but also a lot of well-known professional websites. So if you go to the website of the New Yorker, it is very well designed and well maintained and professionally managed WordPress website, but it is a WordPress website under the cover. If you go to the corporate website of the Walt Disney Corporation, it is the place where they put out their press releases and their investor relations announcements, those sorts of things. That is a WordPress website. So a lot of big professional organizations find it useful to use WordPress under the covers as the basis of their website. Now, the District 47 website last year was not WordPress. It was based on, I have to remind myself of what it's called. Oh, Squarespace, I believe. And which is one of the commercial platforms that's supposed to make it easy for you to create and maintain your website. And it probably has a lot of things to recommend it. But to me, it was like, if I had to use that, it would be like having my arm cut off, because there's so many things that I know how to do with WordPress that I don't know how to do with these other platforms. So I basically said, if I'm going to take the job, it's going to be WordPress. So it is a personal bias. There are arguments against WordPress. Some people say, well, it's old technology. It's been around since the early 2000s. We should move on to something new and shiny. If you do a search of Google News on the word WordPress, you're likely to find a bunch of stories about WordPress websites getting hacked. That is largely a factor of the fact that WordPress is out there in lots of different places. So it is a big target. And I'll talk more about how you keep a WordPress website secure, because if you run your own site based on the software and you are the administrator, there are certain things that you're responsible for doing to make sure that it stays secure. But let me talk a little bit about the distinction between free speech and free beer. Now, this goes back to something that the founder of the Free Software Foundation likes to talk about. So this was sort of an ideological movement of programmers who thought, for academic reasons, for free speech reasons, that all software should be free and open. And so there were battles at some point between these guys and folks like Bill Gates, who thought that all software should be commercial. and that free and open software was a bad idea. But as things have developed, a large part of the web runs on free and open source software. So a lot of the fundamental things that make the internet work run on free and open source software. And WordPress is one of those projects. But the distinction between free speech and free beer is you're entitled to free speech. You're not necessarily entitled to free beer. And if somebody offers you free beer, you should perhaps be a little bit suspicious about what are these people actually trying to sell me. And so you'll see that in the WordPress ecosystem too, that there are a lot of free add-ons that you can get. But as soon as you install that free plugin or that free theme, and I'll talk about those more in a moment, you'll get advertisements that maybe you should upgrade to the premium version that is not free, but has some extra bells and whistles. And so you have to be aware of those trade-offs. And that doesn't mean that those people are evil. They're just trying to make a buck off of the work that they're putting in. And I'm sort of in that camp as well. So if you've ever heard an ad on the radio for WordPress or come across some other promotion for WordPress, it was probably trying to get you to this website. So the guy who started this free open source project by bloggers and for bloggers, he's a guy named Matt. So the company is called Automatic. And they have this website where you can come in, you can sign up for an account, and you can create a free personal website. And then there is an upgrade path if you want that to be a commercial website. So additional features, such as having your own domain name associated with it, things from there are upgrades. Now, when I talk about WordPress, what I work with is more WordPress.org. So this is backed and supported by the same organization, and a lot of the code that goes into WordPress is people from Automatic creating improvements to that software, but not all of it. Some of it might be created by somebody at the New Yorker who had a great idea about how WordPress ought to work a little bit differently, and who, out of the goodness of their heart, and maybe also to make it a standard part of the software so that they didn't have to keep adding some customization, they may make a contribution back to the free and open source project. So you can go to this website, you can download the software for free, but then you need some place to install it. You need a web server. Now, if you happen to work for a company that has racks and racks of web servers and they'll make one of them available to you, that's not a problem. But otherwise, you usually will sign up with a company that's going to host that website. And typically what you do actually is you sign up for their plan that includes WordPress and will have at least a base level of the software pre-installed when you get it up and running. So, but part of the reason that I like WordPress is that there are ways that you can extend it. If it doesn't do quite what you want, quite the way you want it to, you can, if you're a programmer, you can write some code to make it behave a little bit differently, or you can hire somebody who's going to help you make it behave a little bit differently. Now, on this website, there are also many free themes available. So a lot of people use the word template when they're talking about websites. They'll talk about, Dave, you've got a great template for Toastmasters. But actually what I have is a theme. So a theme is a set of templates. You might have a different template for the home page versus a blog post versus one of the inside pages of the website. So it's a set of themes that work together, and they should have hopefully a consistent color scheme and branding across all of them. And if you're looking at one of these free themes, you can go shopping and you can look at ones that have the menu about where you want it. They have maybe a big picture on the home page, and you want to have a big picture on your home page, so you can imagine what your picture would look like in that spot. And so you can shop through these free things and choose one that works for you. Or you might find one that's pretty close, but you hire a developer to add some further customization to it. Then plugins in the WordPress ecosystem, this is sort of the app store. This is where you go to get additional things that add functional enhancements to your site. So for example, there's one for contact forms. So if people are interested in your product or your service, you want them to be able to fill out a form. Contact form 7 will help you do that. These are among the most popular. And then Yoast SEO helps with search engine optimization. It also helps you format and arrange your site so that when you share a blog post or you share some other promotion on Facebook, that it looks the way you want it to look, and it includes the words that you want it to include. Now, there's a guy who's one of the world's foremost experts on search engine optimization, Matt Cutts. He used to work for Google. He's said that WordPress itself takes care of 80 to 90% of the mechanics of SEO. That's partly just because there's so many WordPress websites out there that Google and the other search engines know exactly how to index a WordPress site. They recognize some of the common patterns of how sites are structured, and so they can break down the logical organization of those sites and index them more effectively. So just using WordPress gives you a lot. Yoast SEO gives you some extra bells and whistles, and that's one of the ones where they have some premium things that they'd like to sell you as well. It is certainly a reputable company to deal with if you need that. There are something like 50,000 active plugins available. Active means they're being updated regularly and they just haven't been forgotten about. And I think on the themes page, it's listing almost 4,000 of these free themes. Now, there are also premium themes that you can go out and buy that may be more suitable for your purposes. You'll have to decide that. These are a couple of the plugins that I've created. The one on the left, RSVP Maker, predates me being involved with Toastmasters. It was originally created for a political campaign that needed a way of registering guests at campaign events. So it's the calendaring, it is event registration, and if you signed up for this webinar, you registered through RSVP Maker. You can collect money through it, through integration with online payment services. And then there is the plugin to the plugin is the Toastmasters specific stuff. So I sort of took RSVP Maker as a starting point and added features for manning agendas and doing Toastmasters specific things. And then my theme that's really designed to work around Toastmasters approved branding is called Lectern. So I found a starter theme. I customized it so that it was easy or relatively easy to add the Toastmasters banner to the top. And I've also done some work on making it display pretty well on a mobile browser. So it reformats to fit the smaller screen. And then the WordPress for Toastmasters project is basically that collection of software plus this service that's run sort of on the WordPress.com model. So it's a site where you can go in, you can sign up for an account, you can create a website, and you can do that either to sort of prototype and test and decide whether you like this software at all. And if you do, maybe you go off and create your own independent website that has the software installed, or I can host it for you. There are some fees associated with that to offset my expenses, however. So you take all this stuff, you put it together, and you have a website that allows you to create blog posts to promote things, like the fact that somebody just won a contest, and gives you a lot of great editing tools, and it gives you everything that the people at the New Yorker have. Well, no, probably not everything. I'm sure they have some custom add-ons of their own to manage the editorial process. But it gives you a lot of basic tools that you can work with. And I'm going to stop the slideshow and go to demo stuff in just a moment to show you more practically. But this is my personal website. Just went through a revamp fairly recently to try and reduce some clutter because it had been accumulating things over many years, and it was talking about too much different stuff. And so this is trying to advertise more clearly the fact that I'm a writer, I work with technology companies, I'm going to help you tell a clear, compelling story. And then a call to action in the upper right-hand corner. I let my hair down a little bit more on this personal website that tells all about me and how wonderful I am and all the things that I'm involved in. So this is more my portfolio site. The RSVP Maker site explains about the plugin, gives some of the documentation and ways to try it out. And I think that's enough of the canned material. I'll pause here if there are questions that I should respond to right now.
Thank you so much, David.
I can do that.
Yes, we do have a question from Diane. Diane, feel free to share your question with David.
Thanks, Andre. Hi, David.
Hello.
I have a question about themes. If you are a low to intermediate WordPress user and you have an existing theme, how painful is it to change to another theme? Would you need more advanced help with that, or is that something I would be able to do?
Yeah, I can definitely show you that on a demo site. It's actually pretty easy.
Okay.
Now, and you can sort of test it before you go live. And if you decide that you made a mistake, you can go back to the theme that you had previously. So I definitely will make time to demo that.
Okay, great, thank you.
I'm going to go back into screen sharing unless there's something else I need to address right now. All right, so this is the demo site for WordPress for Toastmasters, and I set this up for a different session I did the other day, trying to explain how to work with the WordPress editor. And here I have a page. This is a demo of the editor and how to work with what they call WordPress blocks, so different blocks of content. So we have paragraphs, we have a bullet list, we have a picture, we have a gallery of pictures, we have an embedded YouTube video, we have an embedded Facebook video, an embedded tweet, something that you can download. So this is a PDF file. Some text organized in columns. And then there is a pay with credit card button. This is similar to what I use for collecting dues on Toastmasters websites. So because I'm logged in, I have this black bar across the top that allows me to navigate through the site. And one of the options is Edit Page. So it's taking a moment to load, keeping me in suspense. And so the main headline is up top. This is the title of the article. Then we go into these different blocks of content. So if you create a new page or post and you just start typing, you're going to be creating paragraph blocks. And within paragraph blocks, we have formatting controls for italic and bold. And this is how you add a link. You highlight the word or phrase, You click on the little chain link icon and you add the site that you, or the page that you want to link to. You decide that was a mistake, we go back and we remove that link. And so you might have to rearrange the little zoom things. You can, if you're seeing little thumbnail images on the side, you might want to drag that to a different part of the screen so you can see what's displayed on the right. Because as I go through this, it's going to change. If I go from a paragraph to a list, if I go from there to an image, we have these controls on the right that are different for different kinds of content. So for an image, I can decide whether it should be displayed, excuse me, full size or a medium size or a thumbnail. So every time you upload an image, WordPress actually creates several different versions of it that it stores so that you can reformat it fairly easily. And then there are alignment controls. It's back to the center. This is a quote block. So this is supposed to be a brilliant thing somebody said, formatted with the name of the person underneath. And different themes might present that information slightly different ways, but it's a common concept of being able to have a call out quote in the body of your article. Let's see. So here's an image gallery. So this is 3 dead presidents and my daughter. Don't ask why, it's just images I happen to have handy. If I want to move the images around, I can do that. Now, if I want to add a new piece of content, typically what I would do is I would just create a blank line and I can click here to decide what kind of content that should be. So if I want it to be an image, I can upload an image from the computer. I can choose one that I had uploaded previously from my library. And again, I can make some decisions about how that should be displayed. Same thing for the picture gallery. And actually, maybe one thing I went by too fast there is when I open this up, there are lots of different possibilities. And so if I want to narrow it down, I can search. So typing in image gets me image gallery, slideshow, tiled gallery. So just a few different styles of presentation for an image or images. Here's my embedded YouTube video. Now this is an embedded Facebook video. I don't get quite as nice of a preview here, but it's the same principle. I can just take the link to that piece of content and add it to the page. I just paste it in on a blank line, and WordPress interprets that as saying that I want to embed that piece of content. So for whatever reason that they're not able to display a preview, but I can still see that this is an embedded piece of Facebook content, and I can add a caption to it. And actually, let me show you how you would add. So this is contest winning video recording. I just paste that in. It automatically adds the player code. And I can add a caption. This is more impressive if you tried to do it the old way, where you had to retrieve a little bit of HTML code from YouTube. And some systems, it was true of Free Toast Host, at least at one point, that if you wanted to add a video, it was a little bit more of a project. Here it's copy and paste. Very same principle applies to a tweet. You can pull up an individual tweet, copy and paste that link, and you're off to the races. Here is the file control. And so just like I selected that I'd like to upload an image and type in file, and I have a couple of options here for files to insert. There is a block called columns that you use to organize text into columns. So say I want to include a column, and it gives me some options about how I want to format them, how many columns I want them to be, and how they should be spaced out. And then from here, I can decide whether I want to add paragraphs or images to those columns. And there is some stuff built in. It may be different for different themes, but if the website is being viewed on a mobile browser and there's not enough space to display multiple columns, then they'll be reformatted to display one after another. And then this is an example of a custom button that is part of my software, as part of RSVP Maker, where you can add a payment button. And so I showed you that on the front end. It was just a little button that said, click here to pay $50. Well, here it is, its description, dues renewal, show the amount and description underneath the button. It's a one-time fixed fee, and I spell out $50, and it will be displayed on the page. And so I have some similar custom blocks for the Toastmasters agenda editor, also for embedding a calendar display and a page. Those things are all available as blocks. So one other important thing to know about is for rearranging your site in general, you would go to this menu here called Customize. And this gives you all sorts of options for customizing your site, including changing the theme. And it won't get me too far on this site because there's only one theme that you're allowed to use on the Toastmasters service, and that is Lectern. And that is just so I don't have people from Toastmasters headquarters yelling at me about improper use of the brand. I know that this one theme is approved. But I can show you, let's see, where should I go? Oh, okay. This is my demo site. This isn't even on the internet. This is just running on my computer. This is what a brand new out-of-the-box Toastmasters, not Toastmasters, WordPress website would look like. So if you went to GoDaddy and you signed up for their WordPress plan, when you first went into the site, it would look something like this. It is set up to have the blog listing on the home page. There is one page on the site that's called sample page, and we need to start customizing from here. Actually, I don't think I explained as I went through the difference between a page and a blog post. So a page is typically a standing piece of content. So usually for a business website and all the club websites that I run, we have the home page is a welcome page that introduces other things, and then the blog is set up to be on a separate page. But again, created by bloggers for bloggers, the default is that the home page is a blog. But if I go into Customize, I have all sorts of things I can change, including what goes on the home page. Now, this default theme is called 2020. Every year when a new release of WordPress comes out, they will release a a new default theme, or at least they have for the last several years. And so there are probably several others that we would see in here that are 20 something or other, 2011, 2015. Again, this is my demo site. You wouldn't normally have all these different themes installed. But if, for example, if we wanted to switch to Lectern, I can click here. I get a live preview. And my option is to, so we've loaded this into Lectern, and it says logo goes here at the top because both for WordPress rules reasons and Toastmasters International brand respect reasons, I can't distribute branded content with the free software. But I make it easy for you to install that branding. Let's say, so you can just pick one of these banners and set it up top. And on toastmost.org, that's sort of done up front for you. Let's see. Actually, I messed that up. I did things in the wrong order there. But let's go to Lectern again. Live preview. So I think I need to change this for real first, and then I can change the banner. I said I wouldn't spend too much time on Toastmasters specific stuff, but let me just get this right. Something exciting happened there. All right. So that's how you change the theme. And from here, we can start to customize this further. We can, for example, customize that menu across the top. Actually, even before that, we might change this to say, it shows me interactively a lot of these changes. I can change the color scheme. I want the background color to be red. Change the header image. I could make it some other random thing, which I've had to disable on the Toastmasters service. I can choose a background image that would be displayed across the back. The District 47 website has like a tropical picture across the back end. And then this is important. This is where I would organize my menu. So typically the menu has a number of different pages within it. And if I want to add a different one, let's see, we have available. We have sample page. So we can add sample page to the menu. And you can see that it's appeared there after contact. If I wanted to make that a submenu, I can sort of indent some of these things. And I can rearrange them on the list. And if I publish this and exit out of this, we'll see that our menu has now changed. Okay. Somewhere in here, there should be a submenu. Now, I mentioned the home page can either be blog on the home page, or you can have a static page out front. Let's see. and in which case you choose which page you want to be the home page. Get sample page, publish this. So the home page says sample page. So, you work through these things and you can customize this to be the way you want. Now, one of the reasons for using this approach, for using a web-based tool to be able to edit your website, is so even if you hire a consultant who's going to create a very nicely designed website for you, you don't have to keep running back to that person every time you realize that a word is misspelled or something needs to be updated, something's badly out of date. And one of the things I definitely see on a lot of websites is that they're promoting events that happened months ago as if they were still coming up. So there are a lot of ways that you can kind of embarrass yourself by having a website that is obviously outdated, obviously incorrect. You don't want to do that. You want to be able to go in and correct things right away as the owner of a website. Let's see. I did have a couple of more slides to show. I'll stop here too. I see a few things posted in the chat. Andre, have you been monitoring? Are there questions I should address right now?
Yes, we have a question from Jennifer. Do you have to pay for a domain? If yes, who do you pay? That question comes from Jennifer.
Sure. Yeah, I should have explained that along the way. A domain is typically the least expensive part of the equation. So you can usually get a web domain if it's available, if somebody else hasn't taken it. You can get a web domain for maybe $10, $15. There's some, I was looking up one the other day, and GoDaddy was doing a promotion where you could get a particular domain for $1. Yeah, it's $1 for the first year. So it's a come on, but it was available fairly cheaply. GoDaddy is one of the big ones. There are many different domain registrars. Sometimes your web host will have its own domain registration service that you can use to sort of buy it all as a bundle. If you go to GoDaddy and sign up for a domain, they're immediately going to try and sell you web hosting. I've never used GoDaddy for web hosting. I don't know. I guess I see it as kind of least common denominator. That may be an irrational bias more than a reasoned one, but I use a company called SiteGround for web hosting. I do use GoDaddy for registration just because I've used GoDaddy for years. No better reason than that. Let's see.
Awesome. Thank
you.
You,
somebody's asking if this is being recorded. I actually forgot to start recording. However, it's being broadcast on Facebook Live, and that will be a recording that will be available afterwards.
We have another question, David, from Jennifer. Jennifer, you could go ahead and ask your question, and then we have a question from Ray Dawn, who will follow.
Okay. So you can unmute by clicking the button in the lower left-hand corner.
Thanks, Andre. Thanks, David. I think you just answered my question, but I just couldn't hear. My question was the domain question and the cost. Okay. So, but I couldn't hear you in the beginning. I heard the part about $15 for GoDaddy, but I didn't hear.
Yeah, so hosting might, again, there are often promotions, and I'll show you something about the SiteGround service that I use at the end. And I have a promotional link to send out after this. Supposedly, if people sign up with that service, I'll get a little bit of free web hosting, which I'll put towards the Toastmasters project. Okay, to try and advance that. But you might expect to spend $100, $150 a year on a business website. You know, they might give you a promotion where you're only spending $50, $60 the first year. Yeah, sometimes there are crazy low promotions, but over time it's probably going to cost you $100, $150 a year just for the hosting. It's one of those things where you can spend as much money as you want to spend, and you know, there are reasons for paying for the higher price services may offer higher performance and various other advantages. So you know, you just have to judge that. See, we're actually 45 minutes into this session, I see. I did want to cover a last couple of slides. Andy Byrne asks about the link to the Facebook. It's on being broadcast out through the district webpage, or the district Facebook page rather. So you can look it up there, and I encourage you to share it after the fact. People can see the replay. I'm sorry, was there another question, Andre, that you thought I should address now?
No, there isn't. You have some more time. We have 15 more minutes. You could continue if you want to.
Okay, let me finish up the prepared stuff, and we can spend as much time as people want to spend on the rest. So that was my demo. I just wanted to show a couple of websites. Actually, I have these pulled up and could show you live as well. This is one of the prettiest ones that I've worked on. I inherited elements of the design from the previous developer, but I've worked on enhancing it so that it is pretty, but it's also well search engine optimized. And really what makes it is the very high quality photography. So this is one of their swank table events. It's a farm up in Palm Beach County that sells directly to chefs high quality organic food, and then they host these events, which I've been lucky enough to be invited to a couple of, that are, she has gourmet chefs in, and they cook for you. Of course, they're not doing too much of it at the moment, but it was fun while it lasted. Geeks on Tour, some of you might know these folks. These are Jim and Chris Gold, who are members of Early Birds Toastmasters. They run a business called Geeks on Tour, where they spend a good part of the year traveling around the country in an RV, and they will go to our RV enthusiast meetup events and give tutorials on technology for travelers. A lot of it is based on teaching older folks how to use their smartphones, how to do good digital photography and organize the photos of their kids. Chris is an expert on Google Photos and has been flown out to the Googleplex a few times to get continuing education on that. She's working on a new edition of her book, Mrs. Geek's Guide to Google Photos. And she is an experienced person with WordPress. She actually uses Blogspot, a Google service, for another blog that she has, but her main business website is WordPress based. It has some extensions to run the forum where registered members of her service, who she charges some money, charges an annual fee, can get access to the premium content. They can also post questions, and she will help answer their questions. So, they had a website before I came along. I've helped them through some issues. This is one of the clients I've had that has gotten hacked, and I guided them through the process of getting their site unhacked and trying to protect it better in the future. We also moved them over to the SiteGround service fairly recently because a lot of her audience is on mobile phones, and we're trying to optimize the site to display better on mobile phones and to have better search engine rankings. Florida Bulldog is a local investigative news site. I don't have too much to do with the formatting of this one. I did help create that little Bulldog extra section on the side so that they had a way of creating a sort of a featured article that wasn't necessarily the latest news article that they'd put out. These are the guys who broke the story about Sheriff Tony from Broward County having killed a man at one point and not having disclosed that on when he was hired. So they are a local muckraking site. They were subject to basically about the same hack that Geeks on Tour was. And so I got contacted by the owner of the site saying, you know, why are these Russian language blog posts turning up on my site? And we had to find out, we found out that actually somebody had managed to hack in and plant a tool that allowed them to edit the database independently of him. It was not as bad as it could have been, and we worked with a service that cleaned up the site and helped them lock it down, and I helped on an ongoing basis with that. So 2 plugins to consider if you do set up a site. This one, relevant to what I was just talking about, is WordFence. Now, WordFence is the company that I introduced them to. Part of it, so there is a free WordFence plugin, which is what I run on most of my sites. One of the premium services that they offer is a site cleanup. If you do get hacked, they will help figure out what went wrong, clean out any malicious code, and they also provide you with an upgraded version of the tool that helps you spot potential attacks on your website and shut them down. This is an example of a WordFence alert telling me that one of my sites, they have blocked 106 attacks over the last 10 minutes. And this doesn't mean, one of the things to understand about hacking is that hackers don't just go after big, rich, powerful sites. They go after anything that's on the web. And so if you create a website, somebody's trying to hack it. Right now, they're trying to hack it, meaning they're just experimenting to see if something is vulnerable. So I get alerted to this. I also get alerted if plugins are outdated and need to be upgraded. So one of the main way that WordPress can be vulnerable to plugins is if people don't keep current with upgrades, because one of the reasons that the WordPress core software and also the plugins and themes get upgraded is because somebody discovered a security weakness. And the worst thing you can have is you're running software that has a known security weakness, so they know that there is or might be a way that they can break in. The other one to consider is called Jetpack. It is made by Automatic. That's the company behind WordPress.com, and actually allows you to add some features that are otherwise only within the WordPress.com environment. You can add them to your independently hosted website. There are security enhancements, performance enhancements. There's a lot of stuff for free, and then there's a few buttons where they're telling you to upgrade. So not everybody loves this, but I generally will install it and turn on the free features. And you know, if a site is making more money, then I'm going to pay some of the paid features as well. So what you need to get started, as we discussed a few minutes ago, you need a domain to run your website on. Typically you do. I mean, the Toastmasters.org stuff, people are set up on subdomains like op.toastmasters.org is my online presenters club. And it's fine for a lot of things, but typically as a business, you would want to have your own domain. And as I said, it's not the biggest expense in the world. And then you need hosting. You need some place to run that website. And then maybe you consider whether you need design help, consulting help. Maybe you need to consider upgrading to the paid version of something like WordFence. Particularly if you've had problems, you're likely to consider that. And then this is the service that I use, and you'll see that they are running a promotion where it's $3.95 a month, so that's a little bit less than $50 a year to set up a basic website through this service. It does have some advantages I found in terms of performance and a number of other things that are quite good here. So I will send out a promo at the end of this session, where if you have a mind to, you can sign up for your web hosting there. These are some of the ways that you can find me after the fact. As I said, I encourage you to go to LinkedIn and tell me that you were on this webinar. I'll approve that connection request right away. So that's it, except for the questions. Geez, we're almost at the hour. So I'm sorry for rambling on. I don't mind staying on for a few more minutes.
David,
Andre, we have pending questions, or any people are welcome to unmute as well and just ask your question.
Yes, we do, David. I think this here was a great session, informative, and there's so much more that you could share with us. And we would love to have you back. We have two questions. One comes from Builder Chipman. Builder, are you ready to answer your question? Feel free to go. You're unmuted, Builder.
Morning.
Morning. It looks like you're muted again. So if you're trying to ask a question, I'm not hearing it. There we go.
You can hear me?
Yes, now we can.
All right. I know I came in late and I came into a session that gave great information on building your website for your business. But I want to know if this avenue is the best avenue as well for doing club newsletters. And if not, could you suggest an avenue for that?
Well, I mean, if you ask me, WordPress is the best way of doing everything. I'm an enthusiast. I'm quite biased. I do promote WordPress for. There's a whole WordPress for Toastmasters project that I've been promoting for several years. I originally did the Club Awesome site as a WordPress site, and then I shared some of the software for that. So you can look up WordPress for Toastmasters to find out more about that. And one of the arguments that I make about why you might consider it is that if your club leaders are using WordPress to promote the club, to organize the agenda, along the way, they are learning a professionally valuable skill. Whereas if you have a a free Toast host website, which is what most clubs have, you're learning something that is only useful to Toastmasters clubs. So you know, there's some trade-offs in terms of, because it's more powerful, it's also more complex, and so you have to navigate through big menus of settings sometimes, because it can be set up to do so many different things, not just run club websites. But anyways, that's my spiel. I mean, you're asking specifically about newsletters. There are various ways that you can set up newsletters, but I generally would advocate, instead of a newsletter, having a blog and periodically creating articles for that blog. And what you do, and this is related to a question somebody posted about search engine optimization. When you regularly post blog articles, one of the things you're doing is creating up this body of work, this body of headlines about different topics that gives Google more to work with when it indexes your site. And so we can see that there was a great thing that the VP of Education posted about maintaining eye contact when you're speaking, that's something that Google can index, and people might find their way to your website because of that. And your search engine optimization will be higher because of that. You can you post something about the winning speech at a contest that you video recorded and put on YouTube and shared the video of that winning speech. So I don't know. I'm a fan. If it's not clear.
That's fine.
All right, and Dorette asked about search engine optimization. A large part of it is thinking carefully about the headlines that you put on articles, web pages, blog posts. You want to have keywords that people might be searching on in there to the extent you can. So you think about that carefully. And then I mentioned the Yoast SEO plugin. What you can do with that is you can actually make the headline that is advertised to the search engines be a little bit different than the headline that is displayed on your site. And there are reasons you might want to do that. For example, maybe the headline on your site doesn't need to include the word Toastmasters because the whole site is about Toastmasters. But you search engine optimize the version that gets promoted on Google to include the word Toastmasters. And similarly, you might want to tweak the headline that would be shared on Facebook or shared on Twitter. You can do those things through the Yoast SEO plugin and many others, but that's the most popular one and the one that I use. Other questions?
There's another question from Jose. Jose's question, can you bring your own domain?
Bring it where? In general, you own a domain and you can point that domain to any website you want. So if you created a website in Squarespace and you decide now you want to use WordPress, you would just change a couple of parameters. Typically I would log into GoDaddy because that's where I registered my domains, and there's a couple of settings I need to change to say use this website instead of that website. And it's a little bit more complicated than that, but not too much more complicated than that. If you were asking about a club website, the Toastmasters.org service is set up to use subdomains of Toastmasters.org. There is a way that I could allow that to host separate domains, but it's technically more complicated. And there are a number of reasons why I just haven't done that yet. So, so basically for a club website, if you want to have it at your own domain, I would suggest that you sign up with SiteGround or one of these other services to be the web host, and I can assist you with that. I'll do a fair amount on the basis of free advice. There might be other things that I have to charge for. And if it's a business venture, then I'm probably want to have some kind of professional rate associated with that. All right, I think we've run through our questions for right now, so perhaps we should wrap up.
I see we just had one question come in. That question came from Dorette. At what stage would one start looking into a web host?
Yeah, I guess there's a few different answers to that question. You might do that right at the beginning. One other thing you might do if you're not familiar with or comfortable with WordPress yet, you might start by going to WordPress.com, signing up for the free account, experiment with that for a while, get comfortable with creating pages and blog posts and customizing things there. And then you might consider, is WordPress.com, does that offer everything I want? And do I just want to upgrade that to be hosted at my own domain? Or do I think I might have some more custom requirements where I want to set up e-commerce on the site, and I think I can do that more effectively on a separate server. You know, a web consultant, and I don't really make much of my income as a web consultant, but as a web consultant, I'm going to tell you to set up an independent website, because then I can go in and tinker with it and I can find things to charge you for. But if you might find that the WordPress.com option actually offers everything that you want. So what does web hosting mean? It means running the actual web server. So, that is a computer in a data center somewhere, or it might just be a certain amount of space allocated on that computer, but you need a computer connected to the internet where the files and the software are stored, and that is associated with that web domain. And so I do find that people often get those things confused. And so, yeah, if you see something on GoDaddy saying, sign up for this domain for $1 per year, great, you've got the domain. You don't have a website yet until you set up the hosting to go with it.
Okay, so quick question. If I go to GoDaddy and pay for the domain with the hosting, and then I would have to create the website to go along with that.
Yeah, I mean, so they'll give you. It's what I showed earlier, where we had a website and all it had is one blog post that said "Hello World" and one page that says "Sample Page," and then you need to figure out where to go from there.
Right.
So it's like buying Microsoft Word. You may use the same word processing software that Stephen King does, but that doesn't make you a world-class writer of fiction. So it's the starting point, and there are plenty of horrible WordPress sites. There are plenty of clubs who have adopted my software, but they haven't done anything very creative with it.
So where would be the best starting point if I want to create a website for my club?
For your club?
Yes.
I would start with Toastmasters.org. So you can look that up. You can sign up for a site there, and you don't need to register a domain. You set it up to. It's free for 6 months, and then I charge the princely fee of $30 per year for the club. It's not $30 per person or anything. It's just $30 per club that sees the value and wants to use that. But again, you could also just use that to experiment and then say, I want to set up my own website at my own domain. And you would actually be able to export your content from the experiment out of the Toastmasters service and set it up on your own site, or I potentially could help you with that.
Thank you.
David, we do have one question coming in from social media. This question comes from Distinguished Toastmaster Paul, and it says, are you finding retail stores moving to online sites to maintain revenue since rents and stores new normals? The question comes from Paul.
Sure. Yes, I mean we're having to do everything online right now, just by necessity, and we're familiar with that in terms of having to run club meetings online, whether we want to or not, or we're not going to meet at all. So yes, I mean, that's a huge thing that's happening in the economy right now. Let's see. I do see that Dr. Byrne has posted some questions about, let's see, there's quite a few here. He asked about limitations on the size of photos. Generally, you can upload them directly from your camera, which is way bigger than you need. You're sort of wasting some storage space on the server, but it will automatically create those smaller versions of the file for you. Can you create password access to parts of your website? Yeah, you can have blog posts that are protected by a password, various other things that are protected by a password. You can designate, you can create additional accounts for other administrators, somebody else who's going to help you administer the site. You can create less privileged accounts for editors or people who are allowed to contribute blog posts, things like that. And he also asks about, do hosts sell your data? Well, you know, generally the answer would be no. You know, when you sign up for any service, you're going to see a long legalese explanation of terms and conditions and privacy policies, which we all are probably pretty terrible about not reading. But you know, in general, I don't think that's the biggest problem. It's more of an issue with use. Yeah, some people use Facebook. They decide that I have a Facebook page, I don't need a website. But you are building on somebody else's property at that point. You're not in control of parameters like privacy. And I mean, Andy, I see another question from you. I mean, you could ask me questions all day, I'm sure. I don't. Actually, how do you feel, Andre? Do you want to wrap it up?
Yeah, we need to wrap it up because we are over time and we have some more programs coming today. Okay. But nonetheless, if you have a question for David Carr, please feel free to send it to dcarr at Toastmasters D47 or David Carr at Carr Communications, I think. Is that correct, David?
David at carcommunications.com. Yes,
awesome.
That'll reach me. Yeah.
Awesome. So nonetheless, we want to thank you all for joining us. David, we want to thank you not just for your presentation today, but for everything that you do for District 47. And we want to invite all of you. We have so much more opportunities. Today we have Beauty Bar by Toastmaster Maribel at 2 p.m. Ladies, females, feel free to check it out. Makeup application while COVID is going on. And then we also have tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. yoga with distinguished Toastmaster Maritza, which is just so refreshing, so relaxing. We invite you to join us. Thank you so much, and we wish you a wonderful Saturday and a happy Mother's Day. Take care, guys. Thank you.
All right. Hello.